he had many little tricks to keep you hooked to him. One of them was your mind, he called the doubt maker, which is actually a very effective sealing mechanism to stop you thinking for yourself. If you start having any doubts, that, oh, that's the doubt maker, which Maharaj Ji Rawat warns me against, so I must stop doubting.
The critical component to mind control. Being made over to be clones of the person who's at the top of the pyramid. Interested in this subject because of my own cult involvement. I was recruited in 1974 into a front group of the Moonies.
Hello, I'm Dr. Stephen Hassan with another episode of my podcast, Cult Conversations, the Influence Continuum, with Dr. Steve Hassan. And I have with me an old friend and colleague, former cult survivor, Michael Finch. Mike and I go back decades, literally, and I can hold up the book that I purchased that Mike wrote, and for those just listening, it says, Without the Guru, How I Took My Life Back After 30 Years, and he was in the Guru Maharaj Ji cult, who later changed his name to Prem Rawat. Mike, we're similar age. And there's so much you can talk about your spiritual journey, but you got involved with this creepy guy. I mean, it hit the public when he was a child at the Houston Astrodome. There was a big meeting with him as a kid, I believe, and a lot of people followed him. But a lot of people then go, Divine Light Mission, what's that? And it then morphed to Elan Vital, and now it's just the Prem Rawat cult that you were mentioning. You have a doctorate in math and theoretical physics. You're a fellow of the International Society for Philosophers. And since leaving Rawat, you returned to Buddhist for a while, spent time with other groups involved with inner work. And you are a meditator. I also want to reference MikeFinch.com. Your website is still up. And with that, I want to thank you for joining me for this conversation.
Thanks for having me.
So, Mike, you're now living in the UK. You were in Massachusetts, I believe, for a long time. And my condolences for the loss of your beloved wife, Gail, who passed away of cancer. So I want you to please introduce my listeners, like, who is Guru Maharaj Ji as a kid who was supposedly enlightened, and tell us your journey. How did you hear about him? And I know you were involved for 30 frickin' years, a long time.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, he doesn't call himself, or his followers don't call himself the Prem Rawat cult.
Of course not.
Cult is our name for his group. I would say that I first came across him in 1969. He himself was born, I don't know, late 50s. And his father was the spiritual master of a big group in India. Mm-hmm. And when his father died, he took on the mantle. He was only age, I've forgotten, 6 or 8, a young kid. I mean, we think he was manipulated by his elder, his mother and family, but that's just alleged. We have I don't really know the truth of it. But Westerners trickled over to India and met him. And a friend of mine, who I'd been at Oxford together, and we had, am I allowed to say drugs? Well, I've just said it.
Yes, you're allowed to say drugs. I interviewed Steve Gelberg, who was in the Krishnas for 17 years, and talked about how much he loved LSD before he met the Krishnas.
So a friend of mine at Oxford in the mid-60s, he and I were in various drugs. And he left. He had to leave England under a bit of a cloud. And I, meanwhile, in order to regain some of my sanity, because I had quite a crisis of a number of different issues, well, drug-related issues. I tried to retrieve my sanity in a Buddhist monastery, which I was in for a year in 1969.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buddhist idea seemed to me extremely good, that you were, you'd get saved and become enlightened. But you had to do an awful lot in order to achieve that state. You had to sit on hard floors with aching knees for hours at a time and be subject to a fairly rigorous discipline. So when Ron, this friend of mine, came back from India, having been enlightened by Maharaj Ji, as we call him now, Prem Rawat is his name, by the way. So Guru Maharaj Ji was how we first referred to him for a few years. Then we dropped the Guru. He dropped the Guru because he thought it sounded cultish. So it became Maharaj Ji. And then after that, he's just now known by his given name, Prem Rawat. What the name of the group is, I don't know. They keep changing every so often. So
Right,
illegal.
but my recollection was he was diddling some of the females or something. And
well, that was quite a bit long. We're still in at the moment where he's sort of 1969, where he's only sort of 8 years old.
Yeah.
And you asked for my story, and
yes,
basically
please.
I came. So I was in this Buddhist monastery, and Ron came and told me how I could be completely enlightened without the aching knees of the Buddhist discipline, and this incredible guru, once in a lifetime opportunity.
Right.
I could be whisked to the top of the mountain, as it were, spiritual mountain, whatever that was, and it wouldn't cost me anything. I was free to leave. It was a completely free gift, and that's what hooked me. So in 1970, I received initiation, called it the knowledge. And that was his meditation style, was called the knowledge, 4 techniques. And then for the first 2 or 3 years, I drove him. I became quite familiar. He came to England in 1971 into the West, and then went on to America. And I spent a lot of time with him for the first few years, and that faded away. And then I just got hooked for the next 30 years, thinking he was the savior, the Lord of the universe, we called him.
Mm-hmm.
And until eventually, with a great lot of effort, scales fell from my eyes, you can say, and I came out of it in 2000.
Mm-hmm. So was there like a slow drip erosion of your faith in him, or was there some event where he acted so outrageously that you were like, I'm done?
But he was... my experience, I mean, obviously you're the expert on cults generally, but as far as Prem Rawat went, he had many little tricks to keep you hooked to him. One of them was your mind, he called the doubt maker, which is actually a very effective sealing mechanism to stop you thinking for yourself. If you start, having any doubts, that, that's the doubt maker, which Maharaj Ji Rawat warns me against, so I must stop doubting.
Different cults have different terms for that, but all in all, it's a thought-stopping term, and it's a reality testing interrupter, because you want to be able to think if there's a problem, right?
I mean, the thing for me is the thing which makes a cult, or the thing which interested me about the cult, you can look at it from 2 different, at least, sides. You can look at a group or a cult as a sociological phenomenon, the group of people, what they do, the charismatic leader, and the rest of it. Or you can look at it from the inside, as it were, which is actually what interested me more. My big question now was, what was it that kept me hooked to such an obviously false, teacher and teachings?
Mm-hmm.
So what was it? And I'm not sure I've really come to an answer yet, but that's what drove me. That's what drove me to write the book that you kindly showed on the screen a while ago. So to answer your question, there wasn't a great big revelation, or rather there were lots of them, but those, I think I allowed a chink of doubt. That was the point. I remember the first doubt I had was not whether he was a guru, not whether he was true, not whether I was hooked in a cult. The doubt was that I was allowed to doubt, if you like, anything. I mean, the thought came in my mind, what if, he wasn't the Lord of the Universe, which is what we called him, by the way, the Lord of the Universe.
Lord of the Universe.
Yeah, because he was a supreme Sat Guru. He wasn't just a guru, he was a Sat Guru. Sat meaning the true, one and only true Guru.
Mm.
So he wasn't just an ordinary Guru, he was the Sat Guru, and meant he was the one and only Lord of everything. I mean, we thought that he was, made the universe, it was all his play. It was kind of outrageous. No normal person who didn't have the doubt maker well installed in their brain would entertain it for a minute. In fact, I've met since many people who talked about the cult, and I said, oh yeah, they tell me, yeah, I remember, I think I went to hear him talk in 70 something. God, I just only spent half an hour there and I smelt cult and I left. Obvious, it was so obvious. And I was thinking, well, why didn't I do that? I'm at least as intelligent, I assume, as these people. But they left it immediately, and I didn't. So what was it that kept me hooked, and so on? So I wasn't even, after 30 years, I wasn't even entertaining the thought that he wasn't Lord of the Universe. But just like, what if?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like that question when somebody holds an outrageous belief. It's quite a good idea to sometimes ask them, is there anything that would make you reconsider your belief?
Right.
And sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So, when did you do your doctoral work? After you got out?
No. I did my doctorate when I was in the cult, because it was service
Mm-hmm.
to the Lord. He said he wanted all kinds of people, and people who could talk intelligently and were scientifically literate. And so, I was kind of picked. It was actually his elder brother who told me originally to pursue an academic career.
Uh-huh.
Later, he and his elder brother split, and the family split into two halves.
Factions.
Faction, yeah. His mother and the elder brother took India, and he kept the West, and they split it up.
Yeah.
Well, obviously he went back to India. So it was service to the Lord. So I got my doctorate as I was.
And how old were you, Mike, when you were first introduced to him?
Well, it was 1969. I was born in 48, so I must have been 21.
21. Okay.
I'm a maths degree. I can work it out.
So I just want to point out that there's a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding that when people get recruited into a mind control cult, that they're zombies and they can't function. And I've met many people like yourself who've gotten master's degrees and doctoral degrees while being in a mind control cult.
Yeah.
And it speaks about our mind's ability to compartmentalize. Okay, this is what I need to do as a student. I need to read my books and think this way and jump through these hoops, while having another compartment with the spiritual box that dominates so much more of your identity and sense of self.
Well, no, this has been actually what's been concerning me, really, both when I left and for the 20 odd years since I have left. What was it? Because I consider myself at least averagely intelligent, and what And yet, why was I hoodwinked? Why did I stay hooked to obviously completely outrageous belief system? And the only way I can think of it is that had this like self-sealing gap. It's like there's a big block of concrete or a big block of masonry, which has no crack, and you can't break into it. It's like you can't. I think it was Jonathan Swift who said that you can't reason a person out of a belief they never reasoned themselves into. You know what I mean?
That's a good quote.
Several people have
I like that one.
Jumped on it since. But if you can't, so it wasn't a question of intellectual reasoning. It wasn't that I thought. I was there one day, and when Ron came to see me and my knees were aching from the Buddhist monastery, and I thought, oh, that would be nice, and worked it out. I can put it, in retrospect, how I worked it out, what my thought patterns were, but that wasn't what actually happened at the time.
Right.
There was a feeling of hope. There must have been obviously something missing, because what he was saying and the message of the guru to be saved was a hugely exciting thing.
Yep. Well, my experience, because I became a mental health professional after leaving the Moonies and have worked now for 50 years helping people recover, and many people have left and just kind of put their cult experience in a closet and just moved on with their life and haven't dissected the specific deceptions that were put on them, or unpack the behavior control, the information, thought, and emotional control mechanisms that were used on them to kind of reclaim space in your brain as your true identity, your higher self, and to recast your ego and your mundaneness of living in the real world as lower energy, etc. And these, you were mentioning about the doubt maker in the Moonies, that was demons or Satan, even though I didn't believe in that prior to the Moonies at all. But that got installed in my head, and as a good Moonie, I wanted to stay true to the spiritual quest to save humanity and save the planet. So that's kind of how but unlike you, I nearly died in a van crash and had ex-members work with me for a week to teach me about Chinese communist brainwashing techniques, etc. So that was what helped me go, wait a minute, everything I'm believing is based on one major assumption, which is Moon is the Messiah, the greatest man in human history. And once I did what you were indicating, what if he's not? Once I thought he's a liar, the whole house of cards started collapsing in my head, because the indoctrination was, I was following the truth. I was following God, not following a liar who is
right. I mean, in my metaphor of that, this uncracked, completely block of stone or marble or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no way anyone can chip into that and reach me while that's there, because reasoning's no good. Well, I said I didn't reason myself into the cult. So the tapping on this marble and saying, hey, Mike, you in there, and he's a false prophet and all that would never work. The only thing which would work was that if I myself made a little tiny crack. Now, once I'd made a crack, where at least there was a possibility of doubt. There wasn't, not that he wasn't the guru, but that I was allowed to doubt whether he was or not. In other words, the question was there. Once that question was there, then that crack opened up and the whole thing tumbled down like a, pack of cards.
Right. So I'll just add, Margaret Singer had a model that talked about a closed system of logic, which is what you were referring to. Janja Lalich did her doctoral dissertation and talked about bounded choice. And for me, because I have a mental health framework of looking at this phenomenon, I really think about it as a dissociative disorder where your cult self kind of suppresses your real thinking and your real feeling self. But my methodology, I agree completely. You can't reason, you can't attack the guru, the doctrine, or the policies head on because it makes the person defensive. But for me to engage the person warmly, get them back in time before they joined, talk about other situations that one would maybe think is bad, like Chinese communist brainwashing or pimps or traffickers or such, and then slow walk the person through what were their first thoughts and feelings. Did they intend to spend 30 years of their life devoted to this person? And that's where you can open the cracks a little faster, at least in my experience.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about another person like yourself, or a
Yes.
therapist or an interventionist, trying to reach the person. I didn't have that.
Right.
I was isolated, and I had to sort of find all that out for myself, really. Just questioning myself. Because once it was possible to doubt,
Yes.
then the doubt maker, who'd been this big, bogeyman that was keeping guarding the gates of rationality, once he'd been shown to be, not as powerful as he seemed to be, then everything became possible.
Right.
And then I myself became a little bit self-taught, read books, the kind of people you mentioned, thought about it myself, but no one helped me, no one. And I thought what I would like is to read a book that's completely my story that would really gel with me. And of course, there wasn't such a book, so I had to write one myself. And that was really the purpose of writing the book. I wrote it 2009, 2008, 8 years after leaving Rawat, and it was to become educated, if you like, educating myself, because this isn't the thing of rationality. This is I don't know. Rawat wasn't just Lord of the Universe. He was my spiritual lover. I know that sounds weird, maybe to say it, but he was God in a bod. I mean, he was, absolutely closer to me than the vein in my neck, as the Quran has it. I mean, it was so realizing that he wasn't who he claimed to be was the ultimate in being a jilted lover. I mean, I felt completely betrayed. I felt completely let down. And then there's this ongoing argument, well, who's at fault? Is it you? Are you at fault for being led into it? No one had a gun to my head making me, become a member of his cult. Nobody put a gun to my head to keep me there. Or is it his fault, being the manipulative kind of a person that he is? And it is clearly both. I mean, they both interact with each other. It's like a dance. He can, you have a one like the old-fashioned dance, 1, 2, 1, 2, where each person holds the other, and then one person makes a step, and then the other person makes a step, and depending on that step, then the other person responds with another step.
Right.
And so, in a way, he was an old-fashioned lover to me, and when that was no longer true of him, it was the ultimate betrayal.
Yeah, if I can add, from my point of view, because I've been studying the law and looking at undue influence, etc., I would put a lot more of the burden of responsibility on him than on you, because you were a young, naive person wanting to figure out, who am I? Where do I fit in the world? what is this thing called truth? And he was making these claims that were so outrageous um, and high. So whenever there's a disparity between the influencer and the influencee in terms of status, a rabbi, a teacher, a priest, president of the United States, there's a disparity of influence, and so the law really looks at that agent in a different way than if you were same age, same status, and being conned.
Oh yeah,
And
I'm not
and then let me
absolving.
just say one more thing, and
Yeah.
that is just I loved Sun Myung Moon because I believed he was the Lord of the universe too, and that he was the greatest man in human history, and that he was true father. And so I projected that belief onto him and then worshiped that belief. He wasn't perfect, but I had that image that I was projecting onto
Yeah.
him. So please continue, Mike. You were saying.
No, I'm saying that I'm not absolving him of responsibility. Clearly, he held a huge amount of responsibility.
Right.
All I'm saying is it's where my interest lies in not so much bringing him down in any sense, although if he were to be brought down, I'd certainly cheer from the sidelines. But I mean, it's not my aim anymore.
Right.
I don't really care. My main concern, as I keep saying, is my own. It's what goes on in here. That's my main concern.
Right.
What was in my mind that yes, all right, he has 99% of responsibility, but there was 1% of something in me. What was that 1%? That 1% interests me more than the 90% of
I hear you. I would just like to share my analysis of myself and what I've also helped other people apply in differing ways for themselves. But I think we were all babies once, and we were all like totally at the mercy of our caregivers, our parents. And as we got older, we came to realize our parents weren't perfect, and we came to realize the world wasn't just or necessarily safe. And a very young child part of our psyche was looking for that kind of certainty, was looking for that kind of father figure, mother figure to tell us what to do and keep us safe and what to believe. So for me, it's an inherent thing in human nature that that we're inherently a part of us, at least, even though we're physically an adult. There's still a part of us that wants to find who's going to tell me what to do, and especially in these uncertain political and economic times.
Oh yeah, I mean, we need other people. We can't possibly understand everything for ourselves. I mean, I flick a switch and the light goes on. I don't know how electricity. I know the theory of it, but I don't know all the complexity of, the wires and the power station and all of that.
Right.
But I think, I was 21 when I was hooked into the cult.
Yep.
And okay, put it this way then. Whatever should happen, although I've got all this, as you said, this evolution idea of, the younger generation relying on the older generation telling them what to do. And by the way, I read the other day something very interesting about this, what you were saying, how the younger generation follows on from the older generation in the human evolution. There was you probably heard this. So they had a guy had a puzzle, little simple puzzle, which he showed to a toddler and a chimpanzee, and showing them how to get into it. And he had a series of instructions doing this. And then just before he finally opened it, he tapped his head 3 times and then opened it. Now the chimpanzee, both of them could open it up. The chimpanzee didn't tap his head because it was obviously not part of the instructions, but the toddler did. Because the toddler, as you said, was programmed to completely follow what his elders and so-called betters told him. And he
Right.
didn't really question it. The thing was to tap your head before doing the final twist.
Interesting.
And so although we're all programmed to that, I mean, we also have rationality of our own to, to make choices.
Right.
So I think, so given all that, yes, of course, there's huge evolutionary forces making me want to, find a safe haven in this world and look to elders and betters and other people to tell me what to do. I think parallel to that, it's like this dance, like you're talking about. It's a twofold step. There is also a place for self-control, self-discipline, self-choice.
Yep.
Is this reasonable?
Yep.
And at the age of 21, which I think was old enough to make choices, I couldn't see it. And as I said earlier, lots of people I've met did. And so that's what interests me. Okay, they could see that this was like tapping on the head, as it were, and but they left it. And there I was tapping on the head for 30 years.
Well, so I'll just add some other variables to this equation as we're trying to, opine about forces. I was recruited into the Moonies in February of '74 before Moon hit the media. Like no one had ever heard of him before. And people had heard about Manson in the 60s, but they really didn't know about cults until I'd say the end around 74. Patty Hearst got abducted. The Moonies surfaced and were fasting for Nixon during Watergate, etc., etc. And so I think, and then when Jonestown happened, so what I'm trying to say is culturally, there's a lot more. If somebody meets a cult in 78 or 79, they go, is this a cult versus not? And then the other thing is just neuroscience is telling us that 21 is not when the frontal cortex fully, develops. It's 25 or 26. So not to let you off the hook for your responsibility in terms of I'm teasing, getting into the cult, but we think we're more mature at 21 or 19 than we necessarily are in terms of being wise.
No, there's loads of reasons to excuse why I did what I did, but I'm not interested in any of them, to be honest. I mean, I am interested from an outside, looking at it from the outside, but my sole interest really is looking at it from the inside.
Sure.
How, not just then, but for the rest of my life, because it made me question everything. I mean, one thing living in a cult does for so long is that it develops, and you leave, you develop a very sensitive bullshit meter. You know what I mean? It's like,
absolutely.
Now anything that smacks of bing, this little red flag comes up. I notice
beep, 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 beep. Warning, warning, warning.
On your back, behind you, the cult of Trump. I mean, that was that's for me. That's a lot of red flags come up. A lot of red flags come up in even not just in big, huge cults, but in even just tiny things, just even little interactions. So that's one very positive thing that's come out of it is tuning, a very fine, sensitive tuning to, to bullshit meter.
Yeah, and truth claims, right?
Truth claims and what have you, and how to be certainly a critical thinker, but more than that, a thinker of because it's not just being what's right. It's not a question of logic. It's also a question of kind of how you feel,
right?
And feeling and logic dance together. That's people often say, I'm a feeling person. I don't think, and other people say, well, I'm a thinking person. I don't feel. It seems to me you've got to have both. But having both is two legs. You can't walk on just one leg. Well, you can, but why when you've got two? So. And each has a veto, and that's the other interesting thing. If I feel something's bullshit, my rationality can override it and veto it, or vice versa. If I reason myself into something ridiculous, my gut, if you like, my feelings from the gut can veto that too. So it's both. Now, some things don't get vetoed, and the gut or the feeling might say, okay, well, you can do what you like, or the rationality says, do what you like. But if either one vetoes, then that's a warning sign.
Yep.
And that's what really the bullshit meter is, I think, is that one, whether my rationality is saying this is absurd, my critical thinking skills say that's absurd, or something in my gut just goes, you know.
1,000%.
That's also
and now
the
we
bullshit
know there
meter.
are neurons in our gut, so it's not even hypothetical. And I tell people part of the recovery from cults is being in your body and listening to your body, including listening to your feelings in your gut. If you just have a feeling like something's off, pay attention to that and do further exploration to test whether or not there's some real basis to that.
Yeah.
So I like to...
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, there's one interesting thing about belief is that my understanding of people who lie, or at least don't tell the truth, the most effective way of not telling the truth is to believe that you are telling the truth, in fact. Because in the tribe, you know, if you spouted out bullshit, there's a tell, you know, in poker language that other people who can tell with the tell that you're sort of spouting bullshit. But if you actually believe it, so if you in the tribe was, you know, hurting somebody or attacked somebody and you want to deny it, the best way is to actually in your mind believe that you didn't attack the person.
Exactly.
That's the best way to defend yourself.
Yep. Agreed. And Trump was raised in Peel's power of positive thinking that says just that. Believe it 100%. And doubt is Satan. So you should believe what you're doing 100% and not allow any doubts or negative thoughts. And it does make people more persuasive when they are conveying a certainty about it. Because I know more than the economists with my tariffs. I know more than the generals, but he knows nothing. But he sounds confident.
My bullshit meter now raises a red flag at certainty. Somebody comes to me with anything. An expert about something is never certain. Experts are always slightly nuanced. Well, on the one hand, this, but that possibly. They see alternatives. But the Ruby, you know, the person who doesn't really have any expert knowledge doesn't see any of the subtleties. They just say, yes, it's this way, or yes, it's that way. So
exactly.
So
and to circle back to something profound that you said before, which also I agree with, is the way to help someone who's in a mind control cult isn't trying to persuade them out of it with facts and reasoning, but empowering them to look for the cracks themselves, to engage them to be open to the questioning of whether or not this is what you want to believe it is. And that's how people really get liberated, is by family members, friends, ex-members, just even citizens, just asking questions that empower the person to reflect and go, I wonder.
Yeah, well, that was certainly, but that's what I did to myself. No one did that to me. But it's the initial question I had was, is there anything that would make me doubt Rawat? Is there anything? No, I'm not doubting him. I'm not doubting him. Please, God, I'm not doubting him. But if there is anything,
you'll be struck dead if you did. Right.
Is there anything that would make me doubt?
Right.
And that's I find an effective question. That's actually what liberated me. That actual question to myself.
That's a what if question that I like to encourage people to ask. And can I tell you my favorite one with the Moonies?
Yes, go.
My favorite one is to an active Moonie, and Moon himself died in 2012. So his his wife took over, and then his two sons are in rebellion against her. But back when Moon was around, I'd ask
Real cult stuff.
somebody, so you're sitting there in front of Father, and he's giving a talk, and he says, I have an important announcement to make. I've started seeing a psychiatrist, and I'm taking medication now, and I realize I'm not the Messiah, so go home. I asked the Mooney, would you believe him? What would you do? And the Mooney will be like, he would never say that.
Yeah.
And I would say, of course he wouldn't, but I'm just asking you, if that happens, what would you do? If he said, I'm not the Messiah, I'm on psychiatric meds now, go home, would you obey the true master? And it just and then I wouldn't give them an answer. I just ask them that question and let them really ponder it.
Yeah.
It's a good one. So as we're continuing, I would like you to talk about meditation, because a lot of times when people are in a meditation-oriented cult group, they often exit and throw out the baby with the bathwater, to use that analogy, even if they liked meditation. And usually people change the type of meditation they would do from the one that they were taught by the guru. But tell us a little bit more about your journey and your relationship.
In a way, when I left Maharaj Ji Rawat and started writing about it, I thought about there being four kinds of people who joined the cult originally. One is the peace snake, the person who wants peace in the world, and they think Rawat's going to bring it. One is the gopi, that's the Indian Hindu word for someone who's just completely in love with the idea of the guru and the guru himself, and they love Maharaji and they want to be with him. Another type of person is who likes the cultural, the good vibes, being love bombed by the group, going to the meetings, the inner meetings, and feeling part of it. And the fourth type is the meditator, which is what I considered myself. Because remember, I'd been meditating for a year in this Buddhist monastery before. And it's not so much meditation itself. I was after, it sounds naive, however you say it, straight out in English, but I was once after being saved, finding, if there was a purpose to my life, what was that purpose? Finding the purpose to my life. And if there wasn't a purpose, to be comfortable with that. Because there might not be a purpose. If there isn't, if I've struggled all my life to find a purpose of life and there isn't one, then can I rest easy in that discovery? So I guess that's one way of putting it. And I was in the Buddhist for that. And although the meditation with Rawat was completely different to the Buddhist meditation, it was really a bhakti sort of Hindu lover thing. You meditated in Rawat cult because he was the guru and he told you to. The important thing was what was called his agya, which was what he told you to do. You just did it no matter what. And he told you to meditate, so you just did it. And that meditation, the knowledge, was like a sort of a conduit, a sort of pipe from him, his grace. That's how he liberated you, not by your own efforts, but by doing what he said sincerely, which was meditate, and this pipe of grace would then enter your life. I don't know, some bullshit stuff. I mean, this was anyway. So that's what made me meditate then. But then when I left, the initial desire for what I was wanting was still there. So I went back to the Buddhists, but I went to Buddhist monastery a couple of times and stayed there for a bit. Then moved on to other things. Did a lot of serious philosophy as well, trying to figure things out. Got my fellowship, as you kindly read out, and so the meditation I was doing right from the beginning, before meeting Rawat, to now. I still meditate now, but it's morphed. It's changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The meditation I do now is very much self, my own discovery. I mean, nobody can. I don't think anybody can teach you meditation. I mean, they can teach you the mechanics of meditation. But meditation is something you have to learn yourself. It's like riding a bicycle. I mean, they can tell you what to do, but actually there's no substitute for getting on a bike and learning to keep your balance yourself. No one can tell you what to do. I think it's the same with meditation. Meditation is really just a question of going to the center, I guess, what meditation means. And everybody's got their own different takes on it. And people often ask, what kind of meditation do you do? Because there's so many. It's like the word sport. I mean, the word sport can encompass a huge array of activities, from tiddlywinks to, triathlon or something. What kind of meditation you do? Well, I do my own. I think that's the only valid answer you can do. You can give. They're expecting a sort of,
is it a mantra? Is it a breath meditation?
Mindfulness, blah, blah, blah. But no, it's my own. But the objective is the same as it was when I joined the Buddhists in 1969. Saw the same objective. And it's not a big wham-bam explosion. It's something that grows and percolates. And the obvious question I'm sometimes asked is, has anything happened? Well, you've done it. If you did it in 69, you've been doing it for over 50 years. What's the result? Well, again, I can't tell you the result, but it's been a roller coaster. Just those internal meditation, 50 years, let alone the cult and the guru and all the rest of it. It's and I wouldn't be without it. It is my salvation, if you like. Just learning to explore what I am, going deep. Metaphors just trail off in the end. But you need to go. Forget you. I need to go to find really deep what makes me tick. And my way of doing it is called meditation. It could be anything you can call it. So I got no techniques to give people. People often say, well, teach me how to do your meditation. I can't. If you've got 50 years to go through what I went through, then we may be on the same page. No, that's a bit of a exaggeration. Obviously, I can make suggestions, and I do make suggestions, but
so I confess that I am wanting you to say, well, I close my eyes, or I sit in a particular chair for 20 minutes or for an hour a day to have discipline about it, or something more physical. Are you able to share any of that?
Well, again, yes, I do. I sit down. I've got bad knees at the moment, so I don't sit cross-legged anymore. I sit on what's called a balance chair, which is a Danish, Nordic sort of chairs where you half kneel, but it keeps your back upright, keeps you alert. Yes, I go through periods of disciplining myself. Sometimes I meditate. I'm going to do an hour or half an hour. Other times it's free. If after 5 minutes it's not working, get up, try again later in the day or next day. Now, if several days go by and that's all that happens, then it's time to roll up my sleeves and see what's going on. You know what I mean? If I'm always bailing out after 5 minutes, saying, this is too much, so there needs to be that sort of discipline in the sense of keeping you going. Close my eyes. There's several meditation schools don't. Sometimes I open them, but generally I close my eyes. My own meditation is breathing based. In the sense that it starts off my breath, being conscious of my breath. I guess the ideal would be to breathe naturally. Breathing naturally means breathing as your body wants you to breathe, without any input from your mind. In other words, not being conscious of it. But of course, there's a problem, because how can you breathe naturally how can you be conscious of breathing naturally if breathing naturally is breathing when you're not conscious of what you're doing?
Right.
So that's kind of, it comes back to our meta of the dance. That's like, in physics, you'd say it's asymptotic. It's things that are, okay, I can't be conscious of my breath as if I wasn't conscious of it.
Right.
I can't. But I can, they can come together over the weeks and months and even years. They sort of, they come a little bit closer and closer and closer. And in that closeness lies something, I was about to say very beautiful, but that sounds a little cultish. It's beautiful and empowering, actually.
It doesn't sound cultish to me at all. It sounds spiritual.
Because I'm a very, you see, even that word, spiritual, carries for me a lot of sort of baggage. It's very free of anything. I mean, you think what you like. I don't mean you personally. I mean one.
Right.
One can think of it in spiritual terms. One can give lots of metaphors to it. I'm trying to give it as metaphor-free explanation as I can.
Sure.
I mean, the trouble with spiritual is, spirit means something in you that's non-physical, that's some magic thing which you survives the body. That's what most people mean by spiritual.
I think of breath actually as spirit.
Yeah, no, well, that's certainly the original, the Greek and the Hebrew names. Okay, in which case, why not just say breath?
Okay.
Because spiritual has baggage. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's not that it's a bad word, or I'm anti-spiritual. Far from it. I'm just trying to. I'm trying to ease off as many preconceived ideas as I can, having great concepts, not meditating to try to fulfill some great goal. I haven't got a great goal in mind. I'm going to find God. I'm going to find my real self. I'm going to find the spirit. I'm going to find whatever. I'm going to find what's there. It's looking. It's. I don't know what's there, but I'm going to find what's there. And I do, as I look, it's like going into a large dark cave with a little flashlight torch, and gradually you see things and you become accustomed to it.
Right.
And it's a good place to be. You can find in that stuff what you want.
Yeah, having the experience of being, to use some other big words that we're trying to avoid, but to be present.
Yeah, all of that. But again, it is experience. It's from the inside. It's meditation is something that has to be done from the inside. It's very easy, in my experience, to talk and think about meditation from the outside, like it is cults to talk about them from as a phenomenon that you're observing.
Right.
I had a very therapist, in my opinion, a very great therapist, Eugene Gendlin, after I left Rawat's cult. And he had this great line that when people talk about their experience, he said, that's the problem. They talk about their experience. I want to hear somebody talk from their experience. That's when real therapy can happen. And I feel the same with meditation and what I'm all about really at the moment.
Right. So thank you, Michael Finch. Without the Guru, How I Took My Life Back After 30 Years is your book. And your website, mikefinch.com, is still up, even though I think you said you haven't updated it in a while. It's still chock full of resources.
Yeah. Can I just say one quick thing? It's not now. It's not without the Guru. It's without any or as many airy-fairy wonderful concepts as I can have. Guru is now a placeholder for all kind of mystical things that want to get in there. And
that a lot of people are believing through social media with all kinds of, woo-woo garbage stuff that really is not helping them have a higher higher state of being here on Earth as citizens of planet Earth. So I want to thank you for meeting with us today and sharing a bit. Prem Rawat, R-A-W-A-T, is how he calls himself now. And he still has a big following or so-so following, or do
So
we
far.
not
And the
know?
interesting thing is, if you look at videos of his recent big events, is how old the audience are.
Uh-huh.
They're all our age. They're all grey-haired, and you know.
So there are people who got involved years ago that are still hanging on.
It seems to be the case. I don't know. Maybe there are lots of young folk, but they don't seem to be the case.
Good. Thank you very much, and let's stay in touch. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the time to speak.